Hello, hello.
Choo-choo!
Oh, look at that. Without the whistle.
Right? Arguably better than the whistle.
Yeah, I think so. So hi, everyone. I'm Ryan from the Tabletop Express.
I'm Anthony, also from the Tabletop Express.
And tonight, we are back doing a Creator's Corner with someone I'm very excited to bring on in. So in 3 seconds, we're going to bring Zev on. So 3, 2, and 1.
Ta-da!
Hello, Zev.
Hello, Zev.
Hey guys,
Hi, welcome to the show.
thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us. We're really, really excited.
Yeah. I was very excited when Anthony told me that we're going to have a Creator's Corner with Zev. So I'm like, I got to jump in on that too.
Yeah, he started fanboying a lot, just to warn you.
I got to jump in.
Cool.
But welcome to our Creator's Corner. So Creator's Corner is our segment on Tabletop Express where we interview different people in the board gaming industry that we all love. So we talk to designers, artists, and publishers. So we like to always start off with a quick intro question, which was, what was your board game origin story? How did you get into this hobby?
I've been a board gamer most of my life. I played, the classic stuff, Monopoly and Careers, and I did Life and Payday, and I think even Anti-Monopoly. Then I remember playing a bunch of Stratego, which I loved, and then I graduated from Stratego to Risk, and then Risk to Axis and Allies.
Ooh.
So I actually cut my teeth mostly then on war games because I played a lot of Avalon Hill stuff. So that was back in the 70s, late 70s, early 80s. I played Starfleet Battles in college. And then I think there was sort of a hiatus. I did some RPGs and things like that. And then in 94, I got into Magic the Gathering, and that got me to conventions. And because of conventions, I saw more board games also starting to be played. And that's how I got back into board games as well. But I was a big CCG player for a few years. And then we could lead into ZMan and stuff like that, where the board games blossomed. But that's pretty much how I started with board games, took a break, and then got back into it somewhat.
That's funny. I feel like we ask this question a lot. And even when we ask it to people besides guests, it's very similar. There's always this, as a kid, I played a lot of blah, 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 blah. And then all of a sudden there was a sort of like break where nothing really happened. I feel like that's similar for a lot of us. And then this thing happened that brought us back in. And that's just like this renaissance is like blossomed from there. It's such a cool thing to hear about. So when you were playing those like Stratego and those Monopoly and things like that, was that with family or was that with friends or both? Like before like the college days?
So that was Monopoly and stuff was family mostly. Careers was also something I really liked, and that we played a bit with family. I lived in an apartment complex, so I had a couple of friends that would come and join, and then that's how we got into Risk. Stratego, I forgot how I played. It was more of a community center where they had some board games, and they had Stratego, and I played it, loved it. I played like 30, 40 games. I went undefeated, and I thought that was amazing. But I was, 11 maybe. And then Risk, and that I remember playing with a neighbor upstairs in the same apartment building. So we played Risk a lot. And then I got into Axis and Allies. And then another friend, so in between, so I was around 12, I think, when someone showed me Dungeons and Dragons. And that was kind of weird because the guy said, "Oh, look, you got to come with me, Zev. I'm going to show you this new thing. We're going to play this new game." I'm like, "A board game? No, not a board game. Card game? No." And this is as we're walking to another building in the area that I was in. And I was like, what can this be? This is weird. And then we played a scenario of Dungeons and Dragons, a homemade adventure and so on. I thought it was very, very, very cool. And then I got back to Axis and Allies for I you know what? Honestly, I don't know if I remember. I think I remember. I went to Toys R Us, and it was on sale for $5.
Oh,
man,
They had a whole like shelf full of Axis and Allies. Interesting story of that. So I got the game. We got to play it, and we had so many questions on the rules or what to do and things like that. So I actually ended up calling Hasbro, or Milton Bradley Hasbro back then, and I got taken to the department, and I asked these questions. And as I'm asking them, finally the person on the other end says, "Hey, these answers are in the rule book." And I'm like, "No, they're not." And he says, "Wait a minute. Do you have the second edition rule book?" I go, "I don't know. How can I tell?" He goes, "Well, it would say second edition on it." I go, "No, my rule book did not have second edition on it." And he was like, "Oh, because every question I asked was answered in the new rule book."
Wow.
So he was very nice. I had some ideas who it might have been. I talked to a couple of people, and they were saying, I think it was me and so on. But they sent me the new rule book. They sent me, I think, a couple of extra sprues. I told them, I really don't like using the chips when you run out of plastic figures. They get like little white and red chips for fives. And I said I would love to have extra sprues. And he sent me a couple of extra miniatures and stuff like that, sprues of the tanks and the planes and everything. So it was really cool. But that was like an interesting experience. My first real customer service thing with that. And then I got into Avalon Hill, subscribed to the General. I advertised in the General for face-to-face players. I used to play by mail.
Oh my goodness.
Email by mail. And with Axis and Allies, I actually had a roommate that loved Axis and Allies and Risk. So when I was in college, we got to play together those games, especially Axis and Allies. And AOL at the time had I wouldn't call it a channel. They had an area where people could play Axis and Allies. You joined, you got ranks, sergeant, major, and stuff like that based on your wins. The only things you had to help judge. So I was playing 2 games of Axis and Allies and judging a third one. That we did all virtually, right? So orders would be emailed. We would take it, we'd roll the results and everything, and then we would email back the players and say, "Here's the result of what you were doing."
Wow, man.
It was kind of crazy but fun. And I had an Axis and Allies board out in the living room on the coffee table for my roommate and I. But I think, as you said, why there's a hiatus, things change, right? I did, with our roommate, believe it or not, the house that we were renting, one floor of the house caught on fire.
Ooh.
It got burnt. The fire trucks came and it got flooded with all the the water, and we had all our stuff in the lawn. And this was around midnight, 12:30 or so. And we're like, well, we got all this stuff in the lawn. We have nowhere to go, and we have to watch this stuff. So my roommate called his brother, and we ended up playing Risk at about like 2 a.m. till the sun came up.
While the fire's being put out, you're playing Risk?
Yeah, well, the fire was gone, and we were just sitting in the yard.
Smoldering ashes.
So we had chairs, and we had like flashlights or whatever, and we played Risk like from 2 a.m. till about 6 a.m. or something like that, till the sun came out. And then we, went to go, we had to rent a truck and storage unit and so on. But yeah, we played Risk till that morning. But I think just things change, right? The life situation changed, and then board games was just not something that happened as much, even though, again, we were doing college, but we were doing some RPGs, and I got into Starfleet Battles. That was my big thing in college.
Which there's still a community for that too. For Starfleet.
Sorry?
There's still a community out there for Starfleet Battles.
Yes.
Sure.
It was bigger. I don't think it's as big as it was.
Yeah.
I know at Origins they used to have way back in the 90s and in the aughts, they would have a big tournament scene for Starfleet Battles, but I don't think it is what it was.
Yeah.
I still love it. I still hold it dear in my heart. Just there was some great stuff with that game.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah, I love that. The Milton Bradley story is, that could be a movie, right?
Yeah.
Hire this man.
Yeah.
How does he know all these things are wrong with this game? Get this guy.
Yeah, it was like, and I guess he was getting frustrated at the other end. He goes, yeah, this is the answer. This is the end. He's like, dude, it's in the rule book. Why don't you just read? I'm like, no, it's not. I promise.
Yeah.
I'm looking. It's not then. And then we discovered why. And actually, because of Axis and Allies, I got into the other Game Master series, right? That was Conquest of the Empire, Shogun, I believe it was called back then, or Samurai Swords. I think Samurai Swords it was called. So I had gotten all those as well and played them with various groups throughout the years.
No, that's awesome. And then you came back with Magic the Gathering, kind of pulled you in.
Yeah, so I wanted to get back into RPGs. I lived in Brooklyn at the time, and I drove an hour to a store in New Jersey. And,
which one?
Yeah, it was in Fair Lawn, New Jersey. I don't know where I saw the advertisement. There was people, they were starting a new campaign and so on. So I went there, generated my character, and then I went back for our first session, and the game master, the DM, did not show. So here I am. I drove all this time, and the owner of the store and one other, like a Norm from Cheers, the guy that's always hanging out at the store, doesn't work for the store, but it's always there. They said, hey, well, you're here. You want us to show you something? And I'm like, sure. And they showed me Magic the Gathering, and I got hooked with that. I was like, oh, man, this is amazing. And then I dropped all the RPG stuff, and I just I played Magic the Gathering for quite a while.
Wow. That's awesome. So at some point, it sounded like you got back into the gaming hobby. And we know at a future point, you would have founded ZMan Games. So what kind of led you to that process to start your own board gaming company pre-Kickstarter? Like just
Well, it was so as I said, I got into Magic. Then I was also a judge. I was a Pro Tour judge. At least I was in the first one, the 96 New York Pro Tour. I was one of the first judges there. So I ran some tournaments. I played in a lot of tournaments. But in 95, when a lot of CCGs came out, I got into a lot of them. And just as a long story short, I don't have to say every game. I glommed onto Shadowfist. Shadowfist was my favorite CCG. So I abandoned pretty much all the others. I mean, I still had decks for them, but that was my game of choice. And I was part of a group where we demonstrated games. And so I took Shadowfist as my thing. I said, all right, this is the game I'm going to proselytize. I'm going to teach people how to play. I'm going to help run tournaments and so on. The company that did the game, they did 2 expansions, went out of business in 97. So I started doing other CCGs with my group, but in the evening, so I go to conventions, and in the evenings, we'd pull out our Shadowfist cards. And no kidding, at every convention, people would come up to us and say, I didn't know somebody would be playing Shadowfist. I would have brought my cards.
Mm-hmm.
So this is already 1998, and I turned to my friend, because it happened, again, so often. I said, maybe there's something here. Maybe we should bring this game back, find out how to do it so we can continue. It looks like a lot of people still want the game. And that was really the road to creating ZMan. ZMan was created to expand, to give me cards to continue playing Shadowfist, and hoping that, maybe if not making a profit, at least not go broke making new cards. So that's when I started the whole process, talked with the community. I had people interested in backing me. If they say, if you're going to do this, let's do it. So there was interest there. And that also propelled me to say, okay, and let's see how to go about doing this. I knew the owner of the company, and I knew the designers of the game. And it just, I think in 1999 is pretty much when when I officially formed the company and officially signed the deal for Shadowfist. But the first product didn't come out till Gen Con 2000. So right now, board games still not, I played some at conventions, but Shadowfist was my focus. And that's what I was doing for the first, year or so of ZMan was Shadowfist. So board games was still a dream that was about 2 years off, 3 years off from when I started the company.
Cool. By the way, I saw some chat, by the way, Barrow's bringing up that Stratego is probably his favorite classic game.
Oh yeah, I love it.
lots of talk about Stratego for here. Jeremiah brought up Pinnacle Entertainment for CCGs, right?
I knew Pinnacle. I knew the people at Pinnacle very much. That was, I believe, Shane was the main guy there. They did a couple of games, and he was an RPG writer as well, publisher, I believe. Great guy, fantastic people. Yeah, I had made friends, and I think that also helped with the Z-Man because I was a demonstrator, and we were good. My group was very good. I mean, we were sought out by people. I got to know publishers. I got to know distributors. I got to know retailers. So, and also Shadowfist was well known. So when I even though being new as a company, distributors and retailers were already saying, "Hey, we'll support you. We love Shadowfist. We're glad you're bringing it back. What can we do?" So I think that helped me get a nice jump start into the into publishing. Instead of fighting my way trying to get known, I already had pretty much all the major distributors interested in the game, and even somewhat a little worldwide. That's also, I can go into my first Essen, which was also in 2000, which I risked going to, and I was probably one of the earliest small American publishers to attend that show, but it became a staple for me. It was a huge success and so on. But we knew there were Shadowfist groups abroad, internationally, a big group in UK, a big group in Germany. There was a group in France. So I knew there was also, viable methods of distribution to, international retailers and consumers. So that helped propel the game for me as well, and the company.
Nice.
Trailblazer.
Yeah.
So then let's bridge the gap then. So how did you get from the CCG stuff, like you said, 2-3 years later, the board game?
Yeah. So we did 2000, we premiered. In 2001, we were working on a new expansion. So a year later, we were going to release the first expansion. So we Shadowfist, we released a starter set and one booster expansion at the same time, right? So it was I think Year of the Dragon was the starter set, and then Throne Wars was the booster expansion. And then we were working on Netherworld 2, because the first expansion, I believe, was called Netherworld. Yeah, so you see Shadowfist there. One of the best multiplayer CCGs out there. 4-player is where it shines, and you'll see 4-player is amazing. It still works as 2-player, works at 3-player, but it was between that and Blood Wars, I think those were the two CCGs vying for best multiplayer thing. But Blood Wars, that really had a if you like the world of the vampires and the White Wolf-ish type world of that, and also Blood Wars was a very long game. Multiplayer, while Shadowfist was, you could finish a 4-player game in about an hour and a half, while Blood Wars, I remember, could be taking 3, 4, 5, 6 hours or so. Yeah. But anyhow, so as we were preparing to do the next expansion for 2001, I get pitched a card game, not a collectible card game, a regular card game, and it was a B-movie themed game, and I was like, why am I doing this? Why am I looking at this? And it was a friend who did the game, and he knew someone who played Shadowfist, and they said, "Hey, do you want to see if Z-Man would be interested in this?" I love B movies. I said, "Sure, I'll take a look at it." We played it. It was funny. The cards were great. I made one change to the game that made it faster and I think better. And we published it. And it came out the same time, the Gen Con 2001, with the Shadowfist expansion, Netherworld 2, and then this one, which was Grave Robbers from Outer Space. That was the first of our B-movie series. And this was a game, we had no fanfare for it. We had, I think, 120 or 150 copies. And we brought it out, and it was funny. It was like every day exponentially our sales would increase because people said, "Oh my God, I saw this being played last night. We were laughing our butts off. Oh, I got to get this game. I got to get this game." And then I would have distributors come up to me and say, "How come you didn't tell us about this game?" I said, "I don't know. I just did it on a whim kind of thing." And he goes, "We got to have this. We got to have this game." And that was the start of the B-movie card game line, of which we did 10 of them. I think we did one a year, except I think 1 year we might have done 2. But we did 10 of them total. They're just so much fun. I mean, reading the quotes was the funniest things to me. It was a silly game. It was a take that game. It was a bash the leader game. It was all that, but it played in about 20 minutes, and it was just a lot of fun. So that opened up the idea of, wow, okay, I like this. This is cool. I could do a card game. I mean, what I loved about it was, I didn't need to play test a pool of cards. There was no huge FAQ, frequently asked questions. Yeah. It was so unlike a CCG. It was very attractive to have a game that just, I did it and that's it, right? They were like, no question, nobody cared. It was such an easy thing to do. And I was like, and that's why I guess I said, all right, I'll keep doing it. But because of that, then I started getting pitched other card games. And because of that, also a couple of board game type stuff as well. Because even though I was pitched Camelot Legends, which I later published, I ended up doing Ideology, which is a board game. Yeah, it doesn't have a board, but it has a board game feel and stuff. So I started doing that. So that was over the next couple of years. I did a strange game called WarCon. It was a bookmark game. I thought it was a brilliant idea. It came in a book. The book was the rules and the battlefield, and the units were bookmarks. Huh. So it was very, very innovative. We actually won an Origins Award for innovation for that game. And that was in 2022, I believe. It didn't do well, unfortunately. People didn't glom onto it. But it was like, here's a game you can play yourself or with a partner, and you can play while online. So we actually gave out free copies at Gen Con while people were online getting their badges or scheduling events. I've said, hey, you want to do something? Here, go play this. Yes. Playing online, So what happened was, I think around this time, I also joined Board Game Geek. So that also opened my eyes to the things that were going on. We knew a lot of the German games were coming in by Rio Grande, mostly. I knew about Carcassonne. I knew about Settlers. Settlers actually premiered, I think, that I remember, Origins 96. And we played it, loved it back then. And then there were a few things afterwards. So I played, because going to conventions, I played a few board games here and there. So I was getting the idea of like, all right, there's a lot of games coming in. But this is where I noticed that board games was going to become a big thing. I really felt that. And I said to myself, I got to be in on this. I have to push to be in the forefront of board games and start bringing them in. And this is also because of me going to Essen. So I saw a lot of board games also there, and I saw what, the market for it and so on. So that was the big thing. But it was a hard thing to do because I wasn't pitched many board games. So I was thinking, okay, what games can I bring over? And I hit I call the Rio Grande wall. So I'd go to Essen and I'd ask publisher, hey, I'm interested in making deals. You got a game? This looked interesting. They said, sorry, we deal with Rio Grande. We deal Rio Grande. And I'm like, oh man, I'm not going to get through this. How am I going to get to do a game if Rio is monopolizing it? I had to find other publishers that were not being approached by them, or for whatever reason were not making deals. I'd go on BGG, look at lists of what people were looking for. And I believe the first one was Urzup, or Primordial Soup, which I ended up doing. I made a deal with Doris and Frank, the publishers there. And this was a game about, amoebas eating poop and they evolve. Great, great, great game. it was, and I was able to do it and get it at a really good price. So everyone thought, oh, you're not going to be able to do this cheaply because there's a lot of cubes, a lot of wood at the time, right? And wood was, I think, probably more expensive than it is now, or at least it feels like it. But I was able to get that game and retail it for $50, and I think that propelled me more in the board game market, where people went, "Oh, who's this player over here?"
Yeah,
and that was pretty much the start of it. So I had, I did that. I did Parthenon, which was another board game. I did so Ideology, Urzu, Parthenon. I think soon after that, I also did Santiago, which, by the way, I think is the only game in the Z-Man line that doesn't have a Z-Man logo. I bought the games from Amigo. They made English copies, but it wasn't selling for them. So I ended up buying their stock. So I got a good price on it, and I could buy it piecemeal, but I just couldn't put my logo on it. So I just had to explain to people, yep, even though it has the Amigo logo, it's still a Z-Man thing. But actually, I got in with Amigo. See, that was the other thing. I got in with Amigo because I did No Thanks and Saboteur. So that got me in the graces of Amigo. So when I said, hey, what else have you had? What else have you got? When they showed me Santiago, I played it. It's a great 5-player game, especially. I think that's where it sings for the game. So I just started making inroads to companies that were not fully in with Rio Grande or whatever other company or two were bringing in games. So I was just, all right, what do I need to do? Let me make connections. And really, that's what I did for the first couple of years. I did games mainly also. I mean, I thought they were good, but also to make as many connections as I could.
Yeah.
And that's how I hooked up with also Lookout Games. I did another one that was on the list that people wanted, and they wanted it so badly they were using like the Avery labels with all the English to put on the cards, and that was Scepter of Zavendor, which was a big hit back then, and that's one of the first ones I brought out from Lookout. That one, and one that didn't make it across here but also did well was End of the Triumvirate. So those were the first 2 games I did with Lookout Games, and that got me into good graces with Hano and Lookout.
Wow. So that's actually really interesting because so you effectively handled kind of distribution in North America for these?
Well, I got English worldwide for most of them.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, whatever I could, because I did have global access to distributors. But yeah, most of my sales were here in North America, US, Canada. But I was growing in Europe as well and making my name known, and by making a lot of these games available in English, which before, again, it's a different market. It was only available in usually just German or something, and then people did mock-ups. So very, very hard to get in English language, especially when there's a lot of text of a game. So, and this was also, before, it was easy to do desktop publishing, you know what I mean? Do your own thing, scanning PDFs and things like that. So, because we're talking 2004, 2005, and stuff like that. So it's still, the internet is still growing for board games at the time there. So yeah, I was able to just establish a really good connection, and I ended up working with Cosmos. I worked with, as I say, Amigo, Lookout, Doris and Frank, and then I was making friends in Portal Games, right? So I was Ignacy stuff. I brought Neuroshima Hex to English language market. With CGE, I brought Dungeon Lords to the English speaking market. So I helped bring, and I wasn't the only one, but there were less players in that field to get these titles. But yeah, I had Portal. I worked with CGE. So yeah, that was just a few of the ones that we worked with.
So what kind of design, what kind of decisions are you making well, like, how are you basing your decisions as to what games to bring over? Like, is it based on word of mouth from other players? Are you firsthand playing these games before deciding to sign them on to ZMan? How does that work?
A lot of it was research that I would do on BGG and other things. Look for holy grail lists, bring this over, reprint this, and hearing what people are chatting about, what's on the, what big German games especially were hot and so on. So that was the thing. Definitely word of mouth. People saying, Zev, you got to check out this game. You got to check out this game. But pretty much every game I had to play, and I had to have a good feeling towards and say, yep, I agree. We should do this game. So I would say that it was a combination of a lot of stuff. But I was open. I kept my eyes and my mind open to try different things. And that's the thing. I didn't focus on, I only want one type of game. I said, as long as I think it's great, if I feel that it's great and worth doing, I'll do it, whether it's a small card game, a huge gamers game, anything in between, a war game, a Euro game, an Ameritrash game, a take that game, a economic game, whatever. I just felt it was worth, if I felt it was worth pursuing, I would do it. And also, by the way, I didn't mention this also, I started bringing in a lot of games from Japan. So I was also one of the first to do that as well. And that was also gaining me notoriety. And a lot of it, again, came from research where people said, I think one of the first ones I did, if not the first, was Fairy Tale, which I remember people talking it up and saying this was amazing, this was amazing. I played it, loved it, was able to meet the designer and then make a deal for it. So, I brought in a lot of different Japanese games as well because of that. But it was, again, through research, word of mouth, and me playing.
That's exciting. And I mean, you have to talk about some of the pedigree there too. I mean, Pandemic is a pretty, like you brought that over for Z-Man.
Pandemic was original. So
yeah.
So that was not a license. That was an original game. I was trying to do, I didn't want to go fully the way of just bringing stuff in. I was trying to be 50-50, 50% original designs, 50% what we call localizations.
Yeah.
Pandemic was part of the original line of stuff. So yeah.
So how did that one work? Did you play? Did you play test it or?
So I heard about Matt Leacock. He self-published a couple of games. I was interested in one of them. He sent it to me, played it. I didn't like it. Then he said he had a couple other things, and we met at the Gathering in 2007, and he showed me another game. It was about ants, I believe. I had to leave as we were scoring because I had a plane to catch. So I wasn't thrilled with it, but he said, hey, I got one more game. I'll mail it to you. And, when you can, test it. And he mailed me this game, Pandemic. And luckily, I just happened to, about 2 weeks later, met up with one of my groups at the time in Connecticut, a big group that we would play like all day Saturday. We'd bust through 7 to 15 games throughout with different, like we'd have enough people where we'd play 2 or 3 games at the same time. So I said, I pulled out this game. I said, hey, let's try this one. I just got it. Pandemic sounds interesting. I explained what it was, and people were going, co-op? What? Who does co-op? What's that?
Yeah.
Kind of thing almost. But and I've told this story I know many times. But we're playing the game, and when that first epidemic card comes up, I swear, like everyone got out of their seats. And I saw that reaction. I went, I'm doing this game.
Yeah.
Whatever happens, I don't care. Afterwards, I'm doing that game. To get a reaction like that, that moment of, oh man, where is this epidemic going to happen? I was like, you don't see that in games a lot. So I said, yep, I'm doing it. Everyone thought I was crazy, but I ended up doing it. So this was in May, I'm going to say, signed the deal and everything. And we actually published the game got it out by end of January, beginning of February.
Yeah, because this is 2008 release.
Yeah,
So
that was the
short
early
term.
2008. Yes, but that was pandemic. It was just the last minute game. I was able to play test it right away. Fell in love with it and was like, dude, I'm doing this.
and you just said that feeling. I had that exact feeling the first time I played Pandemic.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. Going back to the question we posed at the top of the show, and I've told this story many times too. But Pandemic was my come back into the hobby game. My best friend showed it to me, brought it over. We played it, and same thing. 2-3 turns in, I was like, "This is crazy!" Like we're all making decisions together, but somehow the game is playing against us, this inanimate object, and that just blew my mind. And that's what got me in.
Yeah.
So thank you for saying yes to that one.
Awesome. Yeah.
But what a great story and even on Matt's side, right? To not give up and keep churning out those ideas and keep pitching.
Absolutely. It was different, right? It was no game like it, full cooperative, curing diseases. It was like all this, it's like, why are you doing this? And a lot of people told me not to do it mainly because of the cooperative thing. They said, why are there no cooperative games out there? Because nobody wants them, right? That's what everyone thinks. But it was more, maybe they're just nobody presented one or a good one at the time. So I said, I'm going to do it. I got a good price production wise. And I said, I'm willing to take a risk. So I'll tell you, as a quick aside, a funny thing is, so when I started ZMan, right, I had no business. I didn't go to business school or anything like that. By the way, when I was doing ZMan in the beginning, I was also working for Comic Images. I was the gaming manager there. I was the commissioner for the Raw Deal collectible card game, the WWE Raw Deal collectible card game. So I was doing this concurrently. But I remember my friend and I, we'd always have this conversation. This is a guy that always helps me at a con. He was like, so how many mistakes are you away from bankruptcy? Kind of thing. And of course, in the beginning, it's like one, right? One big mistake, we're out of business. That's it. And then it got to the point probably in mid 2000 when I was doing a bunch of board games and my name was getting there and so on. And I remember turning it at one point to him and saying, all right, I think we're 2 mistakes away from, and mistakes by way over printing something, total bombing of something and whatever. And even though, and as I got more into, all right, now 2 mistakes or 3 mistakes, it was, I could take more and more risks, I'll take a shot there. So 2008 was Pandemic came out in January, February, sold out right away. The next, it didn't come back till September, but it was already building up. And then in June of 2008, Agricola.
Yep.
So that year was, I think I turned to my friend and I said, we can make a lot of mistakes and we're probably still good. At a point where we're at a comfortable level here. We're good. I could take more risks.
I remember hearing about Agricola on Board Game Geek when it came out, and I was scouring board game store upon board game store for it. No luck until I went to New York Comic Con and I found a copy of Agricola at some random person's booth. So I bought it, and then I walked over to the Bruce Campbell panel, and I'm just sitting in the audience going through all these pieces while I hear Bruce Campbell just talking it up. I can't wait to get home and play this.
Oh, that's awesome. See, so interesting about that. So, that was another game that people were pasting up. I think that's what they called it when they were attaching sticky labels to the cards. Because there was a lot of text, 300 cards or so. So there was a lot of paste ups going on there. Because of my relationship with Lookout, when they premiered the game in Essen 2007, I told the owner there, Hanno, he says, man, I got a line of publishers that want this game. But I told them all, Z-Man gets first dibs. And why? Because I did his End of the Triumvirate. I did Scepter of Zavendor. I think I might have even done his game Attributes also at that time, right before. So because I established that relationship, I was the first person to say yay or nay on Agricola. And it was funny, he was also sending people over to my booth to say, you got to do this game. You got to do this game. This is a great game. You got to do this game. I'm like, yes, I'm going to do it. Don't worry. I'm going to do it. I hadn't played it or anything at the time, but he just kept sending people over to say, tell Zev, you got to do this game in English. Yeah. And then I finally got to try it, but even I knew I was going to do it because of the buzz, the BGG list, the pace ups and everything. And I just heard so many great things about it from people that I trusted that said, yeah, you got to do it. I'm like, yes, I'm going to do it. So that was how I got Agricola. That was just forming, that relationship that I did early on.
Yeah, it paid off.
And also, but here's the thing, I was so scared of it because it was, I think, one of the first Euros that it was going to be $70. So I don't know if you know this. I did not a Kickstarter campaign, but almost. I did a campaign where it's like, I'm not going to do this game unless I get 1,500 pre-orders for it because it's a $70 game. I don't know if people are going to pay $70 for a game, especially a Euro game. That was unheard of back then.
Yeah.
So I got very, very scared. And then I even did the first sort of stretch goal kind of thing where I said, all right, you know what? The people who, if you order this game here, I'm going to offer meeples. Right? So that was going to be the animal shaped meeples because everything was cubes back then. The sheep, the boars and stuff like that. So, but I offered animal shaped meeples for the people who did the backing of the thing, and then we did get 1,500 backers. And I said, all right, I'm doing the game. So that was actually the final straw. So even though I said yes, I was still let me see.
Yeah,
but it worked out.
No, that's so funny.
Yeah. So obviously, I mean, you say, you were not a businessman, you didn't study business. Obviously, you've done well, and to your point, I think a huge part of that is the relationships, like you said, right? Loyalty, doing things the right way, not shady practices or anything like that. Besides that kind of stuff, is there anything else advice-wise that, as someone who really learned this from experience, right, from kind of diving in as opposed to studying it and being mentored, anything else that you would say to look out for or to sort of keep on your radar?
In terms of helping to make your company a success?
Yeah.
Well, so, I mean, look, the world is different now, right? I mean, you got the Kickstarter, you got crowdfunding, you got different things. My main marketing was I went to a lot of shows. That was my marketing. And people would go like, what the heck are you doing here? I told you I went to Essen. Nobody else was really going to Essen. I went to the Australian Games Expo. I flew all the way down there and I had a booth and I did that show. And people were like, holy cow, this was great. I'm the only American company to do that. But it ingratiated myself with the player base, with the retailers, with the distributors. They were like, wow, he was willing to come down here and do this. And that's pretty much what I did. I did a lot of shows. I would go to a lot of retailers. We would do a friend of mine. So I lived in New York at the time. We would drive for like the weekend. We would do like an 11-store tour over the weekend over 3 states, right? We would drive to Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and then we'd go to Maine, or maybe we'd also stop in New Hampshire. So we did 4 states there, and we would just do demos, and I had product. And really at the time I had Grave Robbers from Outer Space. I did some Shadow Fist. Maybe I had one other thing. So this is even earlier. Before a lot of things were happening. I was selling stuff out of the back of my car. I'd go to retail. Hey, I did demos. You liked it? Okay, cool. You want to buy some product? I got, some Grave Robbers from Outer Space here.
Oh, hey, let me show you my van.
Exactly.
I got a lot of games over here.
And said, it hadn't fallen off the truck yet, unless you want me to knock it off my truck. But I was willing to do that. That was my marketing strategy. So do I tell people nowadays to do that? Should you go to a lot of shows? I would still say yes. I don't know if that dates me a bit, because with the virtual world we live in, news it's very different. But I think still going to shows and making your presence known and being consistent at the shows, meaning not just go one time, go multiple times. You have to get people to trust you and build up a relationship with you to see you there all the time. So it takes sometimes a few years to generate that kind of goodwill. So I went to Kubla Khan, I went to Genghis Khan, I did Archon, I did a 75-person show in what do you call it, New Orleans. I did some Comic Cons just to see, if there was any, I could do any crossover. And again, this was more 2001, 2002, 2003. But yeah, I was doing 12 to 15 shows a year. And then, like I said, going to retailers. So I would tell people, I think it's still viable. Just get yourself out there in that way, because how do you raise your awareness? I know it's much, much harder now. When I was starting out, it was 400 games a year that was new. Now it's 4,000.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Very, very big difference. Crowdfunding is obviously a thing. So sure, I would say if that's something you want to do to use, it probably helps, but it's a lot of work. Unless you get somebody to help you in that. It depends what you're doing. Marketing, it's going to cost you. So there's a lot of upfront costs there to do a campaign. And marketing, you could do what some people did. Like I know there are some Kickstarter campaigns that recently were successful, and somebody was telling me, wow, these people did this. And I go, you know what? I've seen them at so many shows. They've been working on this game for 3, 4, 5 years, getting people, making changes based on feedback, but getting names, doing demos. So they did go to a lot of shows, show off their game, and then I guess just got this huge following. So when they finally started launch their campaign, boom, they had this list of, I have no idea how many names, and just that was a great start. So I guess it is still viable, but it's not obviously the only way to do it.
Yeah.
Advertising, very hard. I don't know where you would advertise to show off stuff. So that's a hard thing. I think just being present, and going to the shows, go to the Gamma trade show, especially if you're new. That's where a lot of retailers and distributors go, and you want to make yourself known to them. Mm-hmm. So I would say that's a big. If you're going to do one show, and you shouldn't do one, but at least that gets you into the potential hands of people who will buy your game.
Right. And
then when you're at that show, maybe do a giveaway. And there's something to consider, especially if you have a small game, maybe give free copies, right? They have like 400 or 500 retailers, give away 400 or 500 copies, let the retailers play it. And if they get it in their store and put it in their library and teach it to their players, their customers, and the customers like it, you might gain a following that way, and be able to, garner interest enough where the retailer says, hey, you know what? This is doing great in my store. I'm going to order X number of copies. And so on. So that's something to do if you can afford it. But if there's advertising, right, sometimes you have to say, okay, I have $1,000 to spend or $2,000 to spend. Do I buy banner ads somewhere, or do I give away 3, 4, 5, 600 copies of the game, depending on production costs and all that? You have to weigh that. I would say probably giving away the game's better if you're giving it to the right people. And again, most retailer hands and stuff, or even some distributors, get them to the salespeople so they could play it. And if they fall in love with it, they'll talk it up. So those are some of the things that I would consider doing. Absolutely.
Yeah. I definitely want to talk about
and podcasts.
Yeah.
That's the new thing also. And podcasts. We didn't have that back then. And podcasts.
I definitely want to talk about Play to Z games. But before I do want to talk about after ZMan, you did go into WizKids, and you brought board games to WizKids, which I started in the hobby in 2003 with HeroClix. So it was very weird seeing board games into WizKids, and I'm like, what? There's a game called SEAL Team Flicks now in WizKids. What was that like?
So yeah, I left the Z-Man in 2016. 2 weeks later, I'm hired by WizKids to be the director of board games. So they had done some board games here, but very sporadically. I mean, they had Mage Knight, which was a huge hit.
Yeah.
They still had HeroClix successful, but that's a different game. So they were doing some board games, Mage Knight being their biggest hit, and they had a few things here, a couple of Star Trek stuff like Fleet Captains and things like that. And I knew the president of the company. He saw me at shows many times, and we always talked about things. So when I became available, I had options. I chose WizKids because I just felt that I could do more there. But they wanted to say, all right, we want to make WizKids also a board game company. We wanted to be known for that. And I said, all right, I can do that. I'm no stranger to doing many games a year. And that was my focus. It was go to town, find games, and do stuff. And it's funny because there were a few games that were at ZMan that were not moving at the time, and they were pretty much rejected, but I wanted to make sure. So I contacted a lot of the designers and said, hey, what's the status of this game? And if it's, do you have the rights back? I just want to make sure. I don't want to steal it from them. If they still want to do it, stay with them. It'll be better off, and so on. But a lot of the games that I started with WizKids were games that I brought back through what I brought in the Z-Man. They didn't end up doing it, then came back to me. One of them being Rock Paper Wizard, for example. Although it wasn't D&D themed back then. I also forgot the original name, but I think that was kind of cool with the WizKids. We were able to do some games where we applied a license to it. And I said, well, and they said, hey, we want to do games with Dungeons and Dragons and Star Trek and Marvel and this. I said, well, I have this one game, the spell casting with the fingers and everything. I think it could make a good D&D themed game, and we pitched it to them. They loved it, and we ended up doing it. And yes, it became Rock Paper Wizard. Sidereal Confluence was another one that I brought from. Yeah, that's Rock Paper Wizard. Look, great game. It's such a fun game.
Yeah.
Sidereal Confluence was another game that Z-Man was going to do. They didn't. I said, bring it over. I'll do it. And it became a pretty good hit for us. Not a smash hit, but a very good, consistent hit. So that was just, I think, two of the few that came. One is Ascending Empires, but that had even a longer journey because we were going to do it at WizKids. It didn't work. Well, we were going to do it at Z-Man, reprinted at Z-Man, didn't fly. Going to do it at WizKids. It didn't work. And Play to Z, I'm bringing it out. But then we did also a lot of original stuff, and that's where, we got Fantasy Realms, Tournament at Camelot. Yeah. This one is my WizKids thing. I mean, a lot of Star Trek stuff. Like we did actually a couple of games, workshop games. We got the Super Skill Pinball series, which came out of that. Just really great. Another eclectic type of game. That's what I like to do. I don't want to focus on one particular thing. We did do a lot of licensed games. One of the ones I recommend, we rethemed a game called Fantasy Business into a Star Trek game, a theme game called Galactic Enterprises. Okay. Great backstabby type game. Just so cool. Underrated, I'm afraid. A lot of people, I've had people, actually someone recently came up to me and said, I played this game. I loved it. And I was like, thank you. I appreciate it. I wish it did better. But you were playing a Ferengi kind of thing. Man, again, so much fun. We did a lot again. I think I did about 80 games with them, 75, 80 or so. I brought back Clash of Cultures, WizKids. That was a Z-Man thing also. We did the Monumental Edition where, the Civ game where we did the expansion, and we changed up, the designer redid the combat mechanics and tweaked a bunch of the cards, tweaked the rules and stuff like that. So overall, really, really good thing. And I helped with localization. So I think that one we got like 8 or 9 languages. Fantasy Realms, we had got about 8, 9, 10 languages. So I helped with that as well. And same thing with Mage Knight. We finally did a big box edition, all the expansions in one, and we did it in multiple languages, and that was a big hit too. And then, as you mentioned, SEAL Team Flicks, right? I took a chance with that. Love the game. Such a fun, different type of game, and it did well. I think we sold out. It's just that the reprint costs were very high. And also, while it did sell out, there wasn't a frenzy to buy it. So that combination was like, well, we don't know if we want to reprint it because maybe we'll do 1,000, but it's going to cost so much. And it might sit in the warehouse for a year or two. So we ended up not reprinting it. But I just thought a great idea, very, not easy to implement, to do, but we made it work. And I hear there's a new edition coming out. More power to them. I hope it works out. But I'm proud of the game as well. But yeah, so I worked for WizKids for 7 years. This is where, again, we did mostly original, a bunch of licensed stuff, and only a few localizations. There were a couple of Japanese games that we brought in. There might have been 1 or 2 German games we brought in. Yeah, so that was my tenure at WizKids. So it was about 7 years.
Oh, that's cool. And then you brought up Ascending Empires. I think that's a good transition to talk about Play to Z games. And today's Zev.
Yes.
So this is like your fantasy team, right? Board game company. Like, this is the cavalcade of stars here.
Well, yeah. I mean, it was. So when I left WizKids, right, I made myself open. I was looking for another position. But while I was looking for another position, people were coming up to me saying, "Why don't you start your own company again?" I was like, "I really don't want to do that." It was a lot of work, and I'm not, as young as I was. It's like I'd rather just get into an established thing and just focus on that. I didn't want to do the day-to-day business stuff. That's one of the reasons I sold ZMan, was the day-to-day business. I was doing everything there. I was making calls. I was helping the ship. I was doing customer service. It got to be a lot. So at least with WizKids, again, that was mostly off my plate, and I took care of finding games and going to shows and so on, things that the creative stuff that I really loved. So a lot of people were saying, "Hey man, if you do this, I'll back you." And enough people said it. I was like, "Okay, here's what I'll do. I'll keep looking for a job. Let's see who else we can get to back, so we can raise X amount of money to do it. And whichever happens first, that's the path I'll choose." And it just happened that was the path that came across faster. And I was like, all right, that's what I'll do. I'll start Play to Z, and let's do it. So yeah, we have, a couple of people, great friends that I've had in the industry, great people in the industry. We have designers, we have publishers, content creators, designers. So and even one retailer, convention manager, and so on. So a nice little gamut of people who work in the industry in different capacity. So it was very nice. But I do the day-to-day stuff. They're pretty much there as advisors, and I'll say, "Hey guys, check this out, or help me play test, or I need to do this. You have any ideas how to do this?" Whether it's I need to do a program, or I need website help, or I'll need graphic help with this, or whatever, things like that. I would just ask them and say, and get their opinion, it's great, because I really didn't have a set sounding board when I was with ZMan. It's pretty much what I do now. I worked out of my own home by myself. I was the only worker for ZMan in the beginning, until I sold. Then there was a group, but again, I worked by myself. They had an office in Canada. But yeah, the only time I really had sounding boards were when I went to conventions. And that was also another reason for me to go to conventions, to get face-to-face time with people, and said, "Hey, let's talk about, this. What's your feeling on this?" Or I would get how people feel about my games, that face-to-face. So that was good energy and good things that I didn't have sitting in an office alone doing stuff. So I'm sort of back to that, with the fact that now I have at least a team that I can help, that they can help me with, advice on certain matters, which is great. So that was nice.
That's important to have. That's
awesome. I agree.
Yeah, totally. So I did have the pleasure of playing one of the games in the Play to Z catalog last summer at the Dice Tower Retreat. And again, you were kind enough to facilitate this 23 Knives business. Boy, oh boy, this was quite the experience. I'll let you describe in more detail, but suffice to say, this is one of those stand up, around the table at the end and see what the big reveal is, kind of a thing.
Yes, that's what drew me to it. I'm not a social deduction fan, So when this was pitched to me, it was pitched to me as social deduction. I was like, really? No, I mean, and then no, it's different. I go, I've heard that before. But out of the courtesy of who asked me and so on, I said, let me try it. And then I was like, oh, no, this is not social deduction. This is something different. And I called it social manipulation. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I like that. I can get behind that. And like you said, the fact that end thing where you're counting how many knives and doves are in the curia to see whether Caesar lives or dies is a stand-up moment. I had a couple of people said my heart was beating, trying to figure out. It's always a surprise, right? Because people think, oh, there's going to be more of this than that. And it's like, holy cow, it wasn't. It was the other way around. So that sold me on it. So among the other things, I love the large player count, the not crazy long playing time, even at that player count.
Sure.
And the fact that you're always engaged, which is a thing I'm looking for in my games. Right? It's like you can't really turn off while you're playing the game. You have to pay attention. You're being swayed, which means your allegiance is changing, so you need to know what's going on there.
Yep.
So you almost always have to pay attention to, even when it's not your turn, what's going on. We just finished the campaign for that. It's on late pledge, so if anybody's interested, you can go on BackerKit. You can order it. So it is available there. We hope to have it out or start fulfilling it in February, March. The file, it's at the printer right now, and we're proofing the stuff there. And actually, you're reminding me that I probably have to upload more images to the.
There's only one lonely image.
Yeah. I thought I had put more. I guess I didn't. So I'm going to make a note here to say add images to BGG for 23 knives. Yeah, we got a lot. I like a new box, one with the credits and so on. So yeah, I'll be doing that tomorrow. So I got to play with you and your friends there. We had a great time. It was different. And it was great. I went to a show. I played, I brought a bunch of games. I always bring prototypes. Mm-hmm. So I get to do prototypes, but I wanted to also focus on 23 knives. And I think at that retreat, I got to play 4 different games or something like that I
think that's what you said. Yeah.
Yeah. It was like 4 games with like 4 to, I don't think we did 8. I think we got to 7, I think, on one of the games there. And yeah, I had a blast. I had a great time playing it. And sometimes I didn't play. I just watched and just helped facilitate a little bit to speed up the game a bit because people are still new to it. So like I was giving cards to people, or I was making the manipulations of the dagger up the track and so on. Things like that. Again, just to help, because I wasn't doing a blind test. It was more, I'm teaching you, I'm helping you. I gave advice in that, reminding people the things they can do when they need it. So, but yeah, I had a great time. It was a lot of fun. It was a big hit. I think that helped also propel better numbers towards the end of the campaign, because I think some people right then and there backed the game.
Oh yeah, we did.
Yeah,
yes, we did before we finished the play. I think we had backed it. So
it worked out. Yeah, it was great. It was great. I had a lot of fun there. But
so obviously we're at Essen. What were you guys showing off there? That's new for Play to Z.
So at Essen we were supposed to have 3 games. We only had 2. We had King's Coalition and Lynx. They did pretty well, not gangbusters or whatever. But the third game, the one that got the hype, and not through us, it was hype because it was compared to another game which had hype. So it was called Iro, the YRO. Unfortunately, that game was stuck in customs and did not make the show. It would have made for a much more profitable Essen for us, but it didn't make it. Yeah, we would have sold out of that game had we have it, but it happens. It's unfortunate. Great game, 20-minute tableau builder. You're recruiting adventurers. You're putting it in a 3x3 grid. Where you place matters. The cards have abilities and they trigger. It's almost like everyone does the phases simultaneously. And based on the icons, you'll see like on the player board, there's icons. Those are the phases. You look for cards with those icons and you activate them. It plays in about 20 minutes. So very, very fast. Up to 5 players, 2 to 5 players. Actually, there's, I think, a solo mode in that one. So it's probably, I think, 1 to 5 players. Dual layer boards for the player boards. And the shared board is also dual layer. Little wood trackers that go in the holes of the so like in the player board there, you're tracking magic and technology, and you can see the different levels 1, 2, 3, and 4, because some cards will give you bonuses based on your magic level or technology level. So it'll say, hey, gain 2 VP times your magic level kind of thing. So you got ways to build, and usually in the production phase, where it says produce magic and technology, if you have a card that has that gear symbol, you activate it every turn. It's in your tableau. You're playing in a 3x3 grid, so the game ends as soon as somebody places the end of the turn in which somebody places their 9th card, or somebody reaches 40 VPs as well. So it ends a lot faster than you would think. I don't think I've had a game go more than 30 minutes, and this is even with a teach. And the teach is simple too. I mean, again, you're drawing cards. You draw up to 5. You recruit. You could buy 0, 1, or 2 adventurers. You place them down. If they have that chevron symbol, they activate the turn they're placed, and only the turn they're placed. You compare combat power, then you go production, income, and victory point phase, and then rinse and repeat. You go back and you play until, again, somebody makes the reaches the end goal.
Nice.
Yeah, it's available. Yeah, there's that shared board right there to the left of the player board. So this is where you keep track of the combat strength and the victory points, and there's little markers that do that to do that. And the combat strength, each card has a combat strength on the top right corner, and you only count the first card in each vertical column. So that's why also placement matters, because it depends. Yeah, you'll see the 4, 3, 7, 2, 4 on the right there, and you'll see all the different abilities. So the chevron abilities, the sword is the combat ability. You got the laurels for here you have the herbalist, 2 VP per technology level. So you count that. So during the production phase, victory point phase, you will always get 2 VP turn per your technology level. If you're at 1, you're going to get 2 VP. At 2, you're at 4, and so on. And that could change also as you build it up. Unfortunately, they don't have we didn't have a display of cards with the income or the other phases there. And there's also like little, I think they're called objective cards. So there's like 3 public objective cards that you can add to the game. It's usually like the first to 15 combat.
Yeah.
First to have
first to reach
3 or more adventurers. Yeah, with less than 3 costs, something like that. Really fun game.
You got kicked off.
Yeah, sorry.
You got anything?
No, I just wanted to make sure that it was there, but it interrupted train of thought. So
okay.
So yeah, those are the 3 games that we had there. But it was a good show. Otherwise, we had some really great meetings about localizing. We actually sold French rights to Lynx because of the show. They played it. They loved it. They said, let's, we want to do this after when I came home. So that was a nice surprise there. And I had good meetings where there are games that I'm looking at that I might bring into the English language as well. So yeah, doing the hustle. That's it. I'm hustling. I do a lot of meetings and meet with designers and so on. So yeah, I do a lot of business at those shows.
No, that's awesome.
No, hustler is definitely one of the words I would use to describe you. You are pretty incredible, the things that you've accomplished, that you've seen, the trends that you've seen, and just it's amazing that that you are where you are. So this was a really great conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very insightful. Do you have anything else you want to ask?
Yeah, I wonder, when do you actually play games?
Yeah, right.
For a long time, I only played prototype games. The only game I would play was Teach You. Would be like the only game at a convention I'd be able to. And usually it was a closer for the evening. But there were a couple of shows, especially last year, and I've been doing it more at these shows here. I aim to play other published games because also I need to know what's out there. Yeah. So I try not to only do prototypes or games that are pitched to me, kind of thing, which also I guess is prototypes. I make it in a point to say, all right, let's, somebody, hey, you want to try this game? Sure, let's do it. Just so I could say I played a published game. And there was actually one convention where I think I played more published games than prototypes, which was a first in 15 years or something like that. And it was kind of cool, but it was good because I was able to catch up on a lot of games that were hyped up. And I got to play a bunch of those as well. But yeah, especially the smaller shows. And when I say smaller, right, not a Gen Con or an Essen or an Origins, I get to play sometimes I say my hangout shows, but not really because I'm also working or I have a booth, like a Dice Tower East or Dice Tower Retreat or something like that. Those are the shows I have more time to play published games because I'm not married to a booth. I have enough time to get my prototypes in, but also try other games as well. So that's so I make it a point to give it a shot. And again, I almost will try most any game, especially if it's new. And that's the thing. There are games that I've only played once because they were new to me, and then that's it. So there are very, very rarely do I get to play even a published game more than once. It does happen a bit. There are a couple I could probably point to, but Teach You would probably be the number one kind of thing. But there are a couple of board games where I got to play it like 2, 3, 4 times over the course of several conventions. But most games are pretty much new to me when I play them at a con.
Nice.
So I got to ask, because I'm thinking about all these things that you get pitched over the years, right? And I think about sometimes interviews with actors or actresses where they ask them, what's one role that you passed up that you regret, or so to speak. So has there been any game that's been pitched to you that you were like, I don't see this happening, and it was a pretty substantial success? And you don't have to tell me if you don't want to.
Oh, there's a bunch. But I don't regret. So that's the thing. And I don't, and I never say it will never sell.
Right.
I'm not interested.
Wasn't a fit
so
for...
I'll tell you a few. I passed on Resistance.
Okay.
I passed on King of Tokyo. Probably named some other very, very popular games. I probably passed on a couple of those. But something like King of Tokyo, it was pitched to me. I liked it, but I saw it as a $20 game still because the cards, there's only a few dice. And I said to myself, there's no way I'm going to get this at a $20 price tag because of all the components. But to me, the game was so light that I wouldn't have pictured myself doing it the way Yellow did it. So that's why I don't regret, because it probably would not have been a success with me because there was no way I envisioned doing the artwork like that, doing a $30 or $35 game version of it. So no regret, because that would not have been what I would have done. Yeah. So, that's sort of thing. The Resistance, for example, I said I'm not a social deduction fan. I thought it was too close to Werewolf still and a little Battlestar Galactica. We played it with 7 players, and it was interesting that everyone that played it there, that it was in that play test, also wasn't thrilled with it, and they felt that they knew what the outcome was going to be, like which team was going to win. And I think the designer said, with 7, for some reason that happens. So I was like, all right, cool, but I'm not interested. It didn't do anything for me. I didn't get excited or whatnot. And then, look at what kind of success it became. But I don't regret it. It was just not a game I enjoyed. And sure, there are games that I've done that I didn't love that did well still, or to picture that, well, even if I don't like it, right, that's my bias. Can I see it doing well? One of those was a game I did with ZMan called Wasabi at the time. I liked it, didn't love it. Everybody who play tested it, and I play tested about 3, 4, 5 groups. Everyone else loved it. I was surprised. I was like, I just really like it, but you guys love it? Okay, you know what? I'll do it because maybe I'm wrong. But what also clinched it for me is we added these melanite bowls where you keep the wasabi cubes in. And I was like, oh, that's nice.
That's nice.
That makes me happy, kind of thing. So the production was really nice, really sweet, even though I was like, it's an okay game. And it did gangbusters, right? It did fantastic. But so I just felt that I didn't see that with Resistance. I didn't see that with King of Tokyo. And again, there are a few others. Again, I want to say there's probably 2 or 3 others. And these are games that made I think even Flashpoint. I think also I passed on Flashpoint because I did Pandemic, right? So I got and even Defenders of the Realm. So I got pitched all these pandemic-like cooperative games, and I'm like, well, I got pandemic. I don't think I should do the Flashpoint because it's too similar-ish, and I don't know. I never thought of, well, maybe I should be the person with the line of cooperative games. You know what I mean? I didn't think that way. I felt more like, would I be cannibalizing my own pandemic sales by doing that? I just couldn't do it. So yeah, I passed on Flashpoint, which did well. Defenders of the Realm, which did fantastic. So yeah, those are just a sample, but there are a couple others. But again, I don't regret it. It's like there are so many games out there. I already my 2025 catalog is overburdened. I'm signing games for 26. That's pretty much all filled up. Wow. So I have no shortage of games. There's so many out there that I'm not gonna, stress myself and saying, oh, I wish I did this or whatnot.
Yeah.
I'll just say, well, I'll just do better and pick something else.
What about I got wondering now. What about the opposite end? Because you brought up Galactic Enterprises, the Star Trek game, which you felt like didn't do as well. What game do you feel is the hidden gem that you published that didn't do too well, but you swear by it?
It's funny. I was just talking about this recently.
Yeah.
I could probably name a few, but I'll name one, and I will say by WizKids. I will say Age of Dirt. I think Age of Dirt is a game that should be in everyone's house. It's just an awesome, funny, fun family game. It plays in 35 minutes. It's different. It's
this one right here.
It makes fun of, I was trying to do it's like a civilization. That's why I call Age of Dirt, because that's there's Age of Steam, the Age of Civilization. So it was a comedy. I'm doing it's Age of Dirt. You're a Neanderthal tribe inventing stuff. But your workers, we call them, they're stupid workers, and that, like, you send workers to get you resource A, but they may come back with resource B, kind of thing. It's because there's a tower there where when you put the cubes in, they don't all come out. So they're not getting you that resource, but they may come out in a later time when a different resource is activated. So they go, here, we got your stone, but I sent you out for wood. Oh, okay, well. It's a fun game. Honestly, I totally do not understand why it did not do well. I for the life of me, I don't know. I can't get it. I don't understand. But that would be the one that I would say you got to try it at least. It's
all right.
It's so good, just so much fun. And there's like little. It's by the art by Clemens Franz, who did like a lot of the Lookout stuff. He did some great. There's a love tent in there, and there's like somebody peeking through the thing. He's got stuff on the inside of stuff. I mean, there's just so many fun little details in that, and it's just a fun game. You can even drum the tower because things get stuck there. One of the actions is you can use a drum, and you have this like little punchboard club that you hit the tower with to try to knock workers out.
Yeah.
Oh man. But oh well, you can't you can't hit with everything, of course, but and sometimes timing. That was one where it might have changed had we had it at Essen. This was a year when we were going to premiere Age of Dirt at Essen, and the whole palette of Age of Dirt held by customs did not make it to the show, and that probably hurt it more than anything else, because that would have gotten it into a lot of people's hands. A lot of people would have tried it and hopefully would have said good things about it, but I think it would have been out there more. So it really, when it premiered, it had no hype or nothing to it, because there was no, it didn't show up at a show that we were going to premiere it and hopefully get some reviews and buzz off of right there. And it just didn't happen. So I think that was a factor in its failure. But really fun game.
Yeah. Age of Dirt. Oh yeah, Marcel bringing up me to use the UGTech camera for drum.
Yeah. We didn't want to. Yeah, the UGTech. Actually, it was originally called UG, was the thing, but because of UGTech, I'm like, no, we can't do that. And then I was like, you know what? Let's make fun of these other age games and dirt. I mean, just saying it is just funny. What is that? This is the age of dirt. I mean, what kind of civilization? So it was almost like a de-civilization game, or the civilization, the beginning of the civilization.
Yeah.
So I just thought there was just all these things that came together that I thought would make it awesome. But yeah, the UGTech was the thing that we didn't want to get too close to. But I would love. I had the inflatable club not been there, we might have done like maybe a mini inflatable club for the tower. But we made it out of punch and it worked.
Yeah.
Got a question from Marcel.
Oh, Marcel's asking a question. What is something that is coming out or in production that you are excited about?
Very good question. So as I said, 2025 has a packed stuff. So I won't say. I assume you'll know the 2024 stuff that we have because we talked about it pretty much here. So for 2025, I mean, there are a couple of things I can't announce yet, but there's I think a pandemic level cooperative climate saving game called Klima, which I think is really, really good. And when I say pandemic level, meaning in terms of rules and stuff. So you have CO2, which is right up there, high up there. Daybreak, I think, has a lot of heavier elements too, but nowhere near CO2. But I think this one is probably on the level of a pandemic, or maybe even slightly under in terms of learning the game, playing the game, accessibility, and so on. So I would say that's one of the things that we're looking forward to. We were going to shoot for like Earth Day 2025. I don't know if it's going to make it, but it's still scheduled for 2025. So that would be one of the ones I'm very excited about. If there's another, let's see, there's another very accessible, fun game called Twisted Trumpets.
Okay.
So that's another one where I think it's a tile laying game where you're making Dr. Seussian type trumpets, loop the loops and flags and birds, and it's just this crazy trumpet. Very easy to play. It plays in about 30 minutes. There's public objectives. There's private objectives. Again, a game you could teach, in 38 seconds and get the whole family playing in that. So I'm very excited about that. It has fun art. There might be a page up on BGG with the prototype cover, which I think we're keeping a lot of it, but we made some changes to the cover. But I think there is a listing for it, at least a prototype. That was one where the designer was going to go Kickstarter with it. But I love the game. I saw it at Tantrum Con. I played it. I said, oh, man, this is great. I go, well, if you still want to do Kickstarter or crowdfunding, whatever, that's cool. That's up to you. But I'm interested. If you want to go another route, I would love to talk to you about it. And, yeah, we had a discussion. And he was like, you know what? Yeah, let's do that. So that's a little example of it. But, yeah, it's a different cover now. But it's showing the you see like the board there on the right. Yeah. Building a crazy trumpet like that with loop-the-loops and twists and bends, and there's mid pipes and mid bells and stuff like that. So really a lot of fun. So those two, I don't want to go my whole catalog because sure, I'm excited about all the stuff. And it's announced yet. Actually, we're going to be so I would say on GameFound we are going to announce something in maybe this week, next week.
Okay.
And as a pre-launch page. So I would say keep an eye out on that. It's a return of a game that's been out of print for about 4 years or so.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll say it's something that I did as ZMan Games. So I'll leave it at that. I'll leave you
to work after the stream.
Wait, is it a big? Okay. I got an idea. I'm not going to say the name of the game.
Yeah, but much how like I brought back Clash of Cultures, I brought back Ascending Empires. I think was there another one I brought back from? I think those might have been two classic ones that I brought back for for it. So yeah, this is another game that I did as ZMan. We're going to bring it back, and we're very excited about it. So we're going to do it'll be on GameFound this particular time because of the type of game it is. It seems that would seem to be the best platform for it.
Sure.
So be on the lookout for news of that.
Okay.
In a little while.
All right, Dan has an off-board game topic question for you, but let's shoot it.
New TV show. What would you recommend?
I watch a lot. All right, so I'm assuming it should be modern day. So here's the thing. I don't like medical dramas. I don't like police dramas. It's been there, done that. I need to watch something with twists, just something different. I would say, you know what was funny, because it's in my mind now because the second season just premiered. Shrinking, I think it's called.
Mm-hmm.
Apple TV. Shrinking.
Yeah.
The first season was a lot of fun. I just finished watching Bad Monkey, also on Apple. Vince Vaughn, I love him. He's great. So that was a thing for me to watch it. Yeah, it wasn't wholly great, but there was some amazing stuff there, and the way his character is just great because it's Vince Vaughn. I mean, he's doing his thing. I would say Shrinking was a lot of fun. Good question. Let's see. I watch a lot of international stuff. So on Netflix, I watch a lot of K series, Korean series, Japanese series, Chinese series. So there's stuff like that. Dude, yeah, that's a hard one for me. But I would say, I got to get into. I would say Bad Monkey if you like Vince Vaughn. Shrinking, but that's just on Apple. I should specify a different network just in case. What was really good? I watch a lot of anime as well. So if you're not into anime, I can maybe give you some titles there. But if you're not, that's not going to help you at all.
It's up to you. Whatever you want to give.
In anime, I think I watch. I think Shangri-La Frontier is pretty cool. I would watch Frieren, Frieren, Beyond Journey's End. Really different fantasy type game. It's about the travels of an elf who was part of like the hero group, and it's 50 years later, and to the elf it's a blink of an eye, but everybody's old, so she's journeying, meeting her old companions and stuff like that, and she's very powerful. I mean, she's very old and stuff. Really good stuff. I was very surprised at how well that was, and I think it's only one season, 12 episodes, so it's something you could watch and in how fast you watch, but you don't have to be locked into it for too long.
Yeah,
that would be it. I know there's more. I blank because I probably watch too much, but it's just that kind of stuff. I love comedies. Comedies throw me off. Sci-fi, fantasy, things with a twist kind of thing, or a drama with a twist kind of thing. But I don't do the typical drama stuff. So sorry, that might have been way too long to.
No, it's fine.
Do that, but and again, I know I'm going to say, I should have said this one, and then I should have said this one, and then I should have said that one. But I think there's a little smattering there. I'll say one. If you like Korean drama, I would do, just to round that out a bit, on Netflix. You have I think Extraordinary Attorney Woo, which was very nice. And again, normally I don't like the different dramas, but she's a lawyer, but she's autistic and stuff, and it's just sweet. It's just very nice, well done there. The thing with Korean dramas, what's interesting is they're very long. A lot of the shows are over an hour long, and sometimes as long as an hour and 20 minutes. And they have probably way too many episodes. That it could have shrunk. Like there was a show called Mr. Queen, which was awesome, but it was 16 episodes, probably averaging an hour and 10 minutes an episode, hour and 15. And again, there's a lot of great stuff there, but a lot of fluff, a lot of stuff they could have cut out. They probably could have done it in 10, 12 episodes or something like that of an hour each. But I stuck through it, and there were just uproarious moments, and just a lot of fun. It's about a guy in modern day he's a chef in modern day Korea, and he gets transported back into the body of the queen in the Joseon period. So it's like 500 years earlier or something like that. But he's still got his attitude, and of course, he's doing the modern stuff. He's like, "Hey, what's up? What?" And people are like, "What the holy cow?" What and then of course he's in the kitchen, and he's, the cook is like doing not great stuff, and let me show you. And he's like flipping knives, and he's doing. There's just a lot of fun stuff there. But it's drama. It's like it could be like serious drama, and then slapstick comedy. That a lot of the Asian shows are like that, where they will do. They'll run that gamut of entertainment.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to let you go in a couple of minutes here, Zev. I do want to thank you again for joining us. I really do appreciate all the insight, all the stories, all the anecdotes. I always, when I do an interview, I always have a little game at the end before I let the guest go.
Okay.
So today is no different. Now, you don't know this game.
I don't know
either.
this game.
So I'm thinking for the first time ever, we have a little bit of a competition here because it's going to be up on the screen.
Oh, jeez.
And I think we can do an actual, like a face-off here.
Oh, my gosh.
Okay. All right, so here's how this is going to work. This is called Name That Z, okay? Zev is, there's something about the Z in Zev. It was ZMan. Even when he went to WizKids, I know you didn't make up the name, but, that Z was still...
That was not planned.
and
It's
now,
destiny.
and now play the Z. So yeah, I mean, you've been on the path, the whole time. So we're gonna do a little game here, and let me see if I can do this without messing anything up here. So let's here. Share my screen, and here it is. All right, so this is going to be picture review reveal kind of. Oh, you just saw the first answer. Well,
Antonio Banderas.
Well, yeah, but what's the Z? Who's this?
So that was Zorro, right?
All right. So the first one's a gimme. All right.
Oh, so you're gonna do it that way? Oh my god!
I'm gonna do it this way. All right, you ready?
Yeah.
All right. Here's your next Z.
Zeta, Catherine Zeta-Jones.
Zendaya.
Zendaya.
Oh, Zendaya.
Correct.
Yeah.
Nice.
Is it Zendaya or Zendaya?
I don't know.
Zendaya.
I got it right, so I don't care.
It doesn't
That
matter.
is true.
I think it's Zendaya.
I think you're right.
I'm pretty sure it's Zendaya.
All right. Here's your next Z.
Zachary Levi.
Eh.
No. That's Eli back.
Zac Efron.
Eh.
I don't know who that is. Zach Morris.
He's from Saved by the Bell, right?
Yeah, Zach Morris.
Yeah.
I would not have gotten that one.
Yeah, agreed.
All right. Here's your next Z.
Oh, that's Zoe Deschanel.
Correct.
Ah, very nice. Wow, very
What's the
good.
score here? It's 2-1. It's 2-1. It's 2-1.
Oh, I think he's got them all. I didn't get any. I don't
Okay.
think.
Yet?
So far.
All right. I swear he didn't see these before.
Are they all actors and actresses and parts?
No.
Okay.
No, okay.
No, they are not.
All right. They're all Z's.
All right. Here's your next Z.
Oh, that's Princess Zelda.
Link or Zelda, Princess Zelda, no?
Yeah.
Ryan's kicking your butt, Zev.
Sorry.
It's your letter, man. Come on.
Maybe there's a delay with the.
Is there?
No, there isn't.
No, there's
but-
I don't think so. Wait. So when
I'm
I
trying to
said
help you out. I'm
Zelda,
trying to help you out.
wait. So when I said Link, he said Zelda at the time.
Yeah.
And I said Zelda. Okay.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Oh, he's a Z. actor, but
That's the guy from The Mask, isn't it?
yeah, he's
He
the bad
is,
the
but
bad
not
guy
in
in
this picture. In this picture, he's a Z. Anybody from the chat? Anybody?
what movie is this where he's a security? I don't remember his character. So it's a character name.
This is Zed. This is
Pulp Fiction.
Oh, this
Yeah.
is Zed's dead.
Yeah.
Zed.
Zed's dead, baby. That's
Yeah,
right, Dan.
Zed's
There you
dead.
go.
Right.
Zed's dead. This is fun.
That's
All
right.
right.
That's right.
There's only a couple more, I promise.
Oh, Zsa Gabor.
Yeah, there you
Now
go.
you're right, he's on the board. Now,
Now you're going my age.
because it's Zsa, I'm going to give you double points on that because there's two Z's in
That's
that.
true.
All right? So you got two. I don't know how many you have. 5? Something like that.
Something like
All
that.
right, here we go.
I'll track it later on Baby Steps.
Here's your next Z.
Oh.
Ziggy.
Yeah,
Ziggy!
Ziggy.
Yes!
Thank
He's
you.
coming back!
Yeah, there he is.
All right. There he is in all his glory.
Wow.
Look at him. So sweet. All right. Here's your next Z.
Zoolander.
Zoolander is
Zoolander.
correct.
Yeah.
Blue Steel, baby.
Yes.
All right. I think
That was awesome.
this is the last one.
So
Pretty
for,
sure.
For all the marbles.
For all the marbles.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is Z, double Z or nothing. All right, here we go.
No, Z.
Oh, Z Garcia. Zev, you got it. Yeah.
That
Yeah.
close to
Look at
the
that
glasses
beautiful
threw
guy.
me off. Holy cow.
Yeah. So that's
Oh,
name
that's
that
funny.
Z. Thanks for playing
Congratulations.
that one.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
that. And
That's
yeah, that's going to be the show for tonight. We do want to thank Zev again for joining us. And if you're watching this later and you have any questions that maybe you want to ask, put them in the comments. You never know. Zev might look at them later.
Yeah.
Or send them,
There
send them to me and I'll answer and you can.
you
There you go.
That's
There you
fine.
So
all
real
good.
quick, before you let you go, where can people find out stuff about Play to Z instantly? Easiest way to do it.
I go to our website, www.play2zgames.com. That's probably one of the best ways. Look for stuff on BGG to appear. So I would say those are probably the two places. But play2zgames.com.
Awesome.
Cool.
Will you guys be at PAX Unplugged this year?
I will be at PAX Unplugged. We will have a booth there. I'll be at BGG Con. I'll be at PAX Unplugged.
Okay.
Yep. And we'll have some of the
People
games that
want
we
to
mentioned there. Yeah, we'll have like King's Coalition, Lynx, Euro, and maybe Ascending Empires. We might have a few copies there. So
And next week's game found release game.
Yeah, remind me.
yeah, you'll have that. You'll have
Yeah.
news of that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Awesome.
Cool.
All right, folks. That's going to do it.
Thank you
And
so much. That was
Come
fun.
back in next week where we'll have our Hall of Wars. So, take care, everyone. Bye.